The Dutch are not fucking around with the Islamists, baby. They want him in, they want him out. They want him out. Go Netherlands. I'm Tal the Traveling Clat, your sweet Zionist prince, who's been told to tone down my language and my... I was told I have to be a little more PC because YouTube's watching now, so I'm going to be careful how I speak. I love you guys very much. If you want to get the merch down below in the description of thetravelingclad.com. Support the channel. Be a sweet Zionist prince or princess just like me. And here's Geet Wilders on deporting criminal foreigners.
We want 60,000 Syrian refugees in the Netherlands to return to Syria immediately. And we want, maybe one of the most important things, we want all criminal foreigners to be deported from the Netherlands.
Seems rational, but people will call this racist. I don't know what's more rational than that. I don't know what saves your country more than that kind of ideology. If they're Islamist and they're in your nation, specifically Islamists, yeah? Specifically, if they're in your nation and they've committed a crime and they're now sitting in your jails just taking up your tax money, deport them. What's the point of having them? In Amsterdam, Dutch people are forced to listen to this.
La ilaha illahu Rabbul Arshil Kareem wa man yad'u ma'a Allahi ilahan akhar ومن يدعو مع الله إلها آخر لا برهان له به فإنما حسابه عند ربه إنه لا يفلح الكافرون وقل رب اغفر وارحم وأنت
Just, he said the word kafirun, so whatever he's talking about here, he is talking about the non-believers, the infidels. In a country full of non-believers and infidels. He's preaching on the streets of a country of infidels to the infidels. Do you understand why, and I've said this over and over again, oh, Muslims, please listen to your friendly Tal, your friendly neighborhood Tal. I'm trying to save you. I'm trying to help you because I like you guys. I don't hate you at all. I want you guys to, I'm on your side. I want the best for you. That kind of behavior has got to stop. People keep seeing you do it over and over and over again. When are you ever going to learn? They're going to end up kicking you out. They're going to end up being very violent to you. And then what are you going to do? Then what are you going to do? You're not going to be able to fight back against them. They will kick your ass. I promise you. The Europeans, they're light right now, but you keep pissing them off. They're going to blow a cap. And there's many of them rising up right now, including this wonderful lady. Her name is Eva Vlarden. I never know how to pronounce her last name. Vlarden Gernbok. And she's sitting now with Dinesh D'Souza, which hopefully we'll be collaborating soon as well. He just followed me on Twitter this week. Looking forward to meeting you, Dinesh. And they're going to be talking about this specific situation.
Eva, we're in Budapest for CPAC, Hungary. And you've spoken about how Europe, the greatest civilization in world history, is being systematically erased.
Mm-hmm.
How is that happening?
Well, it's happening through mass immigration. Now, as we're speaking, there are thousands of people coming in through our borders, and we oftentimes have no idea who they are. And this has been going on for decades now. We've seen that in Europe, the population has been replaced and changed drastically in a very, very short time span. When I was just on stage right now, I quoted two statistics, which are conservative estimates, that in Europe, the past 50 years alone, 80 million immigrants have entered our continent. That's something that you can't expect to happen and then have no consequences whatsoever. And I think that everyone who's either older than me, has seen that change even more drastically, or people in my age group or even younger. We almost haven't really known any better, but we experience the disadvantages and the consequences of it.
What's puzzling to me is it's not strange to me that people from the third world would want to kind of break their way in here, right? It's a more developed society. It offers more opportunities. It's beautiful continent. Do you think the decision to third worldize Europe was a decision made by Europeans, and why did they do that?
But it was not made by the population of the different populations in Europe, democratically speaking. I can tell you that. I mean, even in the 1980s, for example, in the Netherlands, there were polls being done that showed that the vast majority of the Dutch did not want mass migration. And then, of course, after the 80s, we had much more immigration than they probably even could have imagined at the time. And this has been consistently the case. Now we're at a point where in almost every single Northwestern European country, obviously the countries that were hit the hardest by mass immigration, 90%, 80%, 70%, those are about the ranges of those nations are saying, no, we don't want this. We want to halt all immigration to our nations. Yet nothing seems to really be changing in most of these countries. And of course, you know, we don't have to look very far to find answers as to why that is happening. We have a supranational organization, the European Union, that is deciding many of these things for us because their laws take precedence over our national laws in most of the legal systems in Europe. So you have this organization of unelected bureaucrats that have the power to make these types of decisions against the will of the people, essentially. So I very often say, look, you know, we talk about democracy all the time, but what does that really mean when your own lawmakers are not in charge?
Do you think that the ideology of the EU and then also the countless NGOs that are associated with it is based upon the idea that Europe is this wonderful place to which we are trying to assimilate all these non-Western people? That's the benign view, right? Or do you think it's more something like this? Europe is an evil civilization that has colonized the world and deserves to be punished for its sins.
Yeah.
And we are using this migration as an effort to almost colonize Europe.
Yes, I think it's the latter. Exactly. I think that at least the people who are doing this do it because of that reason. There is a type of trauma in Europe, especially after the Second World War, that has caused huge white guilt. It has made it basically impossible to have any type of normal discussion about what it means to be European, as I just tried to do on stage. You know, what does that mean? You know, can we completely factor something like ethnicity out of the equation? I think that at this point in time where we are now, you can't, because the demographic change is so enormous that we are becoming a minority soon. And as you can see, you can't just magically unwind that completely from things like culture and faith, religion. You know, it's a fallacy. I think that those people have benefited greatly from maybe people with good intentions who more so have that benign view that you just described, you know, of people who think, no, but we have a moral obligation to help people in need. You know, and I'm a Catholic, I'm a Christian, I believe that as well. But there are limits to that. You can do that in a charitable way for a short period in time in which people actually do need that help. And then, you know, after, let's say that conflict is over, you can say, okay, well, now it's time for you to go back to your own country and rebuild your nation, to which you have a moral obligation to pass it on and protect it.
To be honest, even that sounds a little bit lax comparatively to how much these Islamists have taken advantage of Europe and your society. That sounds kind of a little bit too good for what they deserve. I don't think they deserve that, unfortunately.
Right? And we all have that. And so that is, for me, the most important topic right now in European politics, because we are getting to a point where soon we don't have a nation left to protect. We don't have a European civilization left to protect because we will be outnumbered.
I thought it was remarkable that you did not shy away from defending, I would call it, white identity. And I think what you're saying is that Europe is a civilization made by white people. And all of its history, its culture is part of that.
Yeah.
And so, because there has been, certainly in the West, a certain deep reluctance to defend white ethnicity. In other words, every other minority affirms its ethnicity, and you have black pride and brown pride and so on.
Exactly.
Are you saying in part that it's only necessary and inevitable in that environment that whites too need to say, I'm white and I'm proud of it?
Yeah, I think at least that there is absolutely nothing wrong with it. So just as you described, you know, everywhere in the world, that seems to be a normal thing. People don't see it as strange. You know, the idea that Africans are proud of their respective nations, or that Asians say we want Asia to remain Asian. You know, all of that is seen as totally normal. Whereas here in Europe, it is not. It is demonized. You know, you get labeled every single bad name in the book, let's say, and that, of course, boils back down to that trauma of the Second World War that we are talking about. I think that people have started to equate, let's say, being white with something evil, such as the Holocaust, to happen, or even, you know, less extreme than that. There are people in power who seem to want to make people believe that everything that is traditional, you know, or Christian, or conservative, or patriotic, or identitarian, that is wrong, and that type of pride or even just acceptance of who you are and where you come from, that leads to terrible things. And I think that
in the United States, there is a pioneer spirit. In Texas, there's the phrase, come and take it. It sometimes seems from the American vantage point that the Europeans have given up, that they're decadent in the sense that they are reconciled to defeat, to being dissolved, to being undermined. Do you think there's enough fight in Europe? I mean, you have it. Are you hopeful or confident that there's enough in the continent that the people of Europe will take their countries back?
There is enough, but it has to be awakened. And so that's why I constantly tell people, do not get demoralized. Because the moment that you do, the moment that you say, no, it's too difficult, it's too hard, we won't get it done, we can't do something like remigration, you know, then it really is over. You might as well just give up the fight now. But the thing is that this can be solved, because something that I would really love to avoid is that this gets more violent. And with the current demographic replacement, you know, I think there are many experts who have said for many years now, watch out, this is going to lead to civil war. If we want to avoid that, and I think it's either that or it's a silent takeover, then there's another option, and that is remigration, which a large part of that can be done completely voluntarily. It might cost us a bit of money, but, you know, mass immigration to the Western world is costing us a lot of money as it is. A lot of money. And I think that even the matter of financial cost at this point should be inferior to the cultural costs.
Because civilization itself is at stake.
Exactly.
The cultural costs are so grand too that if something is not done, it may very much be the end of Europe as we know it. I mean, we know that the Islamization of Europe is coming. We know that it's happening. The question is, will the Europeans act? Here's Geert Wilders again.
And my message to all the old leaders, from Macron to Scholz to your old Pedro Sanchez, is your time is over now. They are history. Woke is over. Multiculturalism and mass immigration has proven to be a total failure. And while the leftish liberal intellectuals may refuse to acknowledge this reality, the majority of the Europeans are very clear in what they want. They want secure borders. They want an end to mass immigration. They want us to expel illegal aliens and criminals from our country.
You know, as somebody who's traveled extensively, I've been to almost every single country in Europe. I know that sounds crazy. I've been I've been nearly 100 countries under my belt. I traveled for 10 years. A lot of you guys don't know that, but that's what I did before I started doing this political commentary stuff. I don't know how you really get secure borders in Europe and how you really come together as a European continent without first splitting apart. I think dissolving the EU is priority. The EU is the big impediment to your guys' success in protecting yourself. And I know, speaking to so many countries and so many people in the countries of the EU, how much the EU has damaged many of these countries. And sorry, I'm getting a lot of rocket alerts right now in the north. I think that one of the best things you can do for yourself in Europe is dissolve the EU, get out of it. Anti-immigration protests in the Netherlands. like how they say, okay.
Wij zijn Nederland, wij zijn Nederland, wij zijn Nederland, wij zijn Nederland.
Yeah, the people are speaking. The people have spoken. They've been speaking for a while. But you need to see a bigger rise up. It's got to happen in all of your countries. Piece by piece, one by one, rise up, stand up against this bullshit. Only people with your values. The Dutch are standing up against the non-white invaders. This is beautiful. So I say again to you, to my Muslim friends watching, shape up, start fixing that behavior. Because here's the problem. Have you guys seen that clip of like those autistic lefties? Sorry, I shouldn't say that word. Here, let me try to see. Lefties, lefty conference. It was such a funny clip that went viral recently. Lefty conference. Let me see if I can find the clip. 1 second. I had to react to it a while back. I can't find it right now. But it was basically a conference full of lefties, and everybody was like trans and blind and deaf, and they were all arguing about microaggressions. It's like, listen, Muslims, you've aligned yourself with seemingly the weakest people in Europe. You haven't armed yourself and surrounded yourself with the people who can actually protect you. If and when the Europeans decide that they're rising up, and it's the far-right Europeans, they're not going to stop with you. They're coming for me also. They're coming for all of us. You're taking us. You Muslims are going to take all of us down with you. But the problem is, you're not going to have anyone to defend you. The right side of the aisle is the strong side. They're the side that are actually going to be able to take their country back. If you don't start cozying up to them, and not with bullshit, anti-Semitic, Jew-hating propaganda, with actually showing them value as to why you belong in their country, they're going to get you good, baby. I'm telling you. This is not the Middle East. This is the Netherlands. Fantastic stuff, guys. If you don't clean that mess up, why do they always do it out in the street, too? Why do we keep seeing examples of this? Why are they always out in the street praying? Well, there's so many mosques in Europe. I keep asking this question. There are so many fucking mosques all over Europe. Why do they keep finding reasons to do this out in the street? Here's Geert Wilders again talking about his plan to take back the Netherlands from Islam.
Acknowledge that Islam is an influential ideology that fosters hatred and terror, and as a result is not compatible with the values of the Netherlands. Close our borders right away to asylum seekers and immigrants originating from Islamic countries. We should withdraw from the Schengen Agreement and reintroduce our own border controls. 3. Begin by dismantling Islamic institutions like mosques. Start by closing foreign-funded mosques, including those that receive funding from abroad and are under the authority of Diyanet, the Turkish Ministry of Religious Affairs, and not us. 4. Lock up anyone who threatens or uses violence or deport them from our country, and if necessary, take preventive action against those hundreds of supporters and thousands of sympathizers of the jihadist movement in the Netherlands. And 5, Chairman, request all schools, newspapers, media to display a Muhammad cartoon. In order not to provoke, but to demonstrate that we never give in to threats and violence, and that we proudly and firmly support our freedom. Finally, I have a message for all those Muslims in the Netherlands who do not respect our freedom, our democracy, and our core values. Those who consider the rules of the Quran more important than our secular laws, and there are many of them. 700,000 is revealed in the study by Professor Koopmans. And my message to them is get lost. Depart to an Islamic country then you can enjoy Islamic rules. Those are their rules, but not ours. This is our country, not your country, but our.
And the thing is, you know, the Muhammad cartoon part, I get where he's coming from. I personally wouldn't go down that strategy myself to make the point. I get the point he's trying to make, and I understand where he's coming from, what he's trying to accomplish with that. I don't think it's the right strategy. I also don't think it's going to give you much brownie points with anyone. It's a little bit too extreme. I think you can make the same points with all that with that, but I get where he's coming from. It is your freedom to do it if you want to, and the fact that it's something that a lot of people are afraid to do is fucked up because they know that it'll be answered with violence, and that's not a good thing, especially in Europe. If you know that drawing a cartoon of somebody else's prophet from a different religion that's not from there is going to result to you with physical violence in Europe, that's not a good place to be. Not a good place to be at all. It's a problem. But you guys have to start taking the steps in Europe. You have to start taking the steps now to secure your borders. The most important thing he said was securing your borders. Dropping out of the Schengen Agreement and start securing your borders on your own border. Dutch people securing the borders for the Dutch. That's how you start with number one. Because when you have to count on the French and the Italian and the Greek to secure the borders for you, it's going to slip up because they're not taking it as seriously. They don't care if one jihadist makes it through Greece and ends up in, wherever, ends up in Germany. It's not their responsibility anymore. They just came through Greece. They flew from, some random ass country like Pakistan to Albania, and then they traveled through Albania to Greece, and then they took a bus from Greece and they made it all the way to the Netherlands. And once they're in, they're in. They're a parasite. You're not going to get them out. You got to get them out. You have to get them out. I'll see you guys in the next one. I love you a long time. Goodbye, class.